Oh, hey, everybody. We're back. And it's great to see you again. I bet you're wondering, is Rainforest okay? Is Colorado now just a frozen tundra devoid of life? Was it all too much for Malone? And was he forced to eat Dave to survive? And the answers to all your questions is a resounding maybe. The good news is that the show is back, and we have a ton of new episodes just waiting for you to comment on. Assuming Caesar Milan's methods work on a pocket beagle long enough for me to finish editing. Along with the new episodes, I have a restorative justice graphic novel coming out, a bunch of talks at University of Colorado, Colorado Springs, and a Patreon page. Yes, if you go to patreon.com/the Shakedown, you'll find out more about our latest projects and get access to some exclusive stuff like our holiday special. So much cool stuff is on the way. We have some great topics. I have some ideas for different formats, which I definitely want your feedback on. And I have some guests in the works. Plus, we have an all new fancy schmancy intro, which you will see right about. Hello, and welcome to the Shakedown, where we discuss the criminal justice system from the inside out. The goal of this podcast is to explain how the criminal justice system works, from policing to courts to prison to parole, and how they affect all of us. The hosts of the Shakedown draw from personal experience and share their stories. Our hosts include Malone, who spent 30 years in Texas prisons and is now a published comic book artist. Dave has been in and out of prisons for most of his life and is a proud dad. Both have traveled the country speaking about their experience with Texas prisons. My name is Ryan, aka Rainforest, and I spent 6 years in Texas prisons, during which time I studied sociology, criminology, and writing. I now live up in Colorado, where I help with local projects to help those struggling in the community. And now, here's our show. It's someone who just wants to get high and just smoke the whole time, or just wants to yell at other people like that are way down the run or in the day room, or wants to like tattoo himself, or who knows what, like,
or is a thief.
Oh yeah.
Or homosexual.
Yeah.
Not that I'm knocking that, but it's just...
I know. It's just...
It's against the rules in there. And then, also that means there's a possibility that they could bring somebody else into your cell.
Right.
And then... Because I've had that happen to me before. I was Cellies with a guy. And I come in to go to my cell and in and out. And there's him and some other dude are in the cell. And I'm just kind of like, really? What's going on? And...
Right.
And so I went back to the day room. I was like, okay, fine. I'll give you, whatever. And I don't know. I mean, I want to spend as little time as possible in a cell with somebody, especially somebody I don't like.
Right.
It really gives you a greater appreciation for your privacy.
You have no idea, no idea how important your privacy is until you have zero, and then you have to split your time with somebody. And like you said, it's not a matter of whoever it is, their sexual preference really isn't the problem. The problem is like what they're actually end up doing, and like the things that they end up doing that they're bringing back to the cell. Because there are plenty of guys. It's always interesting the people that I'd end up getting along with, because they're not usually people I would end up hanging out with. Well, there's not a lot of people I'd end up hanging out with out in the free world, but I get along with them because we could talk. We could if you can talk and you can understand each other, you can come to an understanding. You can say arguments don't get out of hand, or you can have a disagreement and say, hey, let's figure this thing out. That's hard to find. But when you have that, it's amazing. It's the best thing in the world. Or you just be like, hey, the fact that you can just come back to the cell and no matter whether you're both in or neither one of you, or however it's set up, and it's okay, like it's you can still chill. That's really nice, but it's super rare to
True.
find that.
I had a cellie one time that we spent 2 years in the same cell, and the dude never left just to go eat. That was it.
Mm-hmm.
And that used to just drive me crazy. And because it's like, you don't get any time, any personal time in prison, except for if you have a one man cell, you can feasibly get somewhat privacy. In the dorms, yeah, kind of, but it's still not alone time. The closest thing you can get to alone time in prison would be in the 2 man cells,
Yeah.
and it's like it's crazy too how some people they don't want to live anywhere else but in the cell blocks.
Yeah, I don't. There are, and they like it because they can, the privacy that they get, like, so like when you go to the trustee camp, you get your own cubicle, but the officers can look in on it a lot easier than normal. But the thing is, you have your own. It's like your own spot at least. And then also people are getting called out to work all the time, so you're generally going to find your own time. But the cell blocks, you're guaranteed to have someone else in it. But the guys who want to live in there, you can hide from the officers a lot easier. There's ways to get away from them, but you're never going to have your own personal privacy. So that's why they generally want them.
Yeah, it's all just it's a trip though. It's like, who in their right mind thought, hey, let's make this cell that's 4 feet by 8 feet and put a toilet and a sink in it and make 2 people live there. They talk about, like, back before the big prison expansion in Texas, that some of those cells will be, when they were overcrowded, they had 3 people in the cell. Could you imagine?
I can't imagine that would. And there's some people who would, like, I know for a fact they would feed on that. They would do everything that's how they would do their time, is like spinning the other 2 people up in whatever cell they're in, because a lot of people love to do their time like that.
It's entertaining. I mean, I can see it. I can get it. It's just like they're controlling a situation and seeing the reactions they can make,
Right.
which is unfortunate.
I had at Ramsey 1 for the most of the time I was there. I had the guy who was in the cell with me. He was one that never left. It's like, seriously, he had school and then he never left either. But like, and it was annoying because I didn't have any privacy. When I came back to the cell, he was there. When I got home from work, he was there. He was always there. And anytime he went to go eat or anything like that, like, the only time that I could get any privacy is if I would skip meals. That's the only time that I would get any privacy.
That's
And
crazy, and that's not
yeah,
very long.
no. And he would, um, and then like he would like rush to get in as soon as possible. So, but the good news is that we got along. Other than that, like, then it was annoying, but there was no issues. He just, as long as he could stay in the cell, he was fine. I was like, that's fine.
I think in a lot of ways, when you're living in that close of proximity to somebody, there's quirks and things you will put up with that might even seem funny, right,
Yeah,
or whatever, or humorous, that in a normal situation would drive you crazy.
right.
But when you're living in a confined space, you kind of got to you got to be very flexible. Otherwise, it's not going to be good.
Well, one thing is it's a lot easier to be. I feel like it's a lot easier to be optimistic because you you can see how much worse it can get. A lot of times, it's so much more clear, like what how much worse you could see. Like you might be stuck in your cell with your Cellie, the house mouse, like um who's there all the time, and then you leave, and then you'll see someone, and be like, well, at least I don't have that dude. like I'm not stuck living with them, or someone who I remember my first Cellie. He um I was able to get moved only because he got her cell was getting searched like 3 times a day because he had hidden K2 and all this other stuff he had taken from maintenance.
That brings up another topic too. People like your Cellie having contraband.
Yeah.
They come in and shake the cell down. You've got whatever, say there's tobacco in a common area. Your Cellie doesn't want to own up to it. So what happens? You both get a disciplinary.
Right.
It's just crazy. It's like, what's ironic for me is while I went through it all, I never thought about it like I'm thinking about it now. It was just like, oh, this is another facet of prison. This is something I have to be used to, whatever. Woo, this is how things work.
Right.
Versus here, you sit back and you're thinking, damn, like all the things you have to deal with, things you have to get to know, just like your interaction with somebody, and not even just somebody, but like say your interaction with your cellmate and his homeboys.
Yeah, that is absolutely. You have to. It's always a game of politics for them because his homeboys can relay something, can be talking in his ear the whole time, and then you get the consequences of it.
Right, and it's like, I mean, you could get. It's just. It's interesting though. It's like you could get whatever, or even if you have a thief or a Cellie, somebody likes to steal. He steals something from somebody and they come to your house, your cell looking for it, and you're just kind of like, huh? And you could catch rap for it. So
right.
It's a strange dynamic that I never really even thought about, And then it's cool too, like, well, interesting too, is how there are some units that have single man cells.
Yeah.
It's. I mean, I was never fortunate enough to be on one.
That I noticed the only place that I saw that had single man cells were like for guys who were in solitary, they were ad seg, they were like the G5, like they were not going to be able to be in general population because they gotten too many serious cases, or they're like what I'm trying to think of what is going to get you G5'd for and get you like in solitary for an extended period of time. Dave, do you know?
You could repeatedly get major cases, and they'll G5 you for that. And then it depends on the severity of the case. You could always assault an officer.
Yeah.
That'll definitely get you G5'd off the unit. Try and kill somebody. That do the same thing. Or not. That sounds so just like matter of fact, but like, so I guess, like you shank somebody.
Yeah.
G5. Or the easiest way, go down to the gang intelligence officer and tell them you're in fear of your life.
Yeah, that is another way to do it. Yeah.
And that's how you do it without a case.
And a lot of guys, I remember when I was traveling with guys who were G5'd, they would always be, they They were so happy about the cells they got because they got solitary cells, and not only solitary, but they had showers in their cells. So they're like, they don't have to leave ever. They've got everything they need. But on the flip side, they don't leave. Like when you're in one of those cells for an extended period of time, you're not going anywhere. That cell is your life. And there's lots of guys who've done, I know in the feds, I don't know the guys have done that, but I don't know in Texas. I know a lot of states have done that in the past. I don't know if they're still really doing it, but the like extent years of solitary confinement, because it really messes with people after a time.
I'm about to say, could you imagine doing 10 years? And then they have the super seg where you don't have human contact.
Right. And that's like, I can imagine it. Like I don't know. I can have, so when I was in SEG, I remember like, because I was doing my classes, and like when I have all of my stuff and I could still communicate with the outside, it really wasn't that bad. Though I could like communicate with the cells next to me, and like I could do trades and things like that with the guys in the cells next to me. But honestly, at that time, I could read, I could get books in the mail, I could do my correspondence courses, I could do, I could write letters, I got food delivered to me. And I mean, I was like, this is not bad. I got more done in the 4 days I was in SEG than like I had in the past month, just because it was, I didn't have to deal with in and outs. I didn't have to deal with a lot of the stuff that goes on with the general population. But definitely, I think if I had been in there for like a year, I think I would start feeling some of that. I haven't seen anyone for a very long time, and start getting really in my head and start making some crazy decisions.
Like the way you said, get inside your head and make some crazy decisions.
It, you know, there's a phrase. It's like um, my head is a dangerous neighborhood to hang out in. It's like
Oh,
that's everyone. After a while, I feel like their head turns into a pretty dangerous neighborhood after a while.
oh, mine is.
And it's just, you can't, because if you don't have someone else to kind of bounce your ideas about off of, and start getting some direct feedback from, I think you can easily get into something. Yeah, I like some of the stories I've heard from solitary are people like they end up mutilating themselves because it's something, the idea pops into their head, and then they start doing it, and they just start going, and they start doing these things. And it's not like they just stab themselves once. It's slow processes.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine.
Yeah.
I couldn't imagine. Yeah, and if you didn't have anything to read or anything to write with, being in solitary confinement would drive you absolutely crazy.
They like, with you're on suicide watch, they just send you in there with that blanket. Like there's this like, they call it's like it's supposed to be like the suicide blanket, and it's like a blanket for a horse, and they just send you in there with that. And uh, if you're really like, if you're in that bad of a state, being stuck in that cell and that's freezing cold, that's not going to help. Like you're going to get so much worse, so much more quickly. And yeah.
You totally are. But it's just, but they don't care because it's, I mean, nobody cares
Right.
except for the person that's going through it.
Right. The person who's going through it, their family, the people who care about them, they care a lot, but they're not. the thing is their family and loved ones don't even know what's going on until they usually hear, oh yeah, well, we put him in seg and then, he offed himself, so sorry about that.
Yeah, the rest of the story is always hidden.
Right.
It's just interesting. I don't know. And then you take cultural dynamics with your, like, not in solitary, but mind you, but like in a regular cell. And I mean, you might learn something about somebody or an entire culture that you never knew before.
Absolutely. It's I've had some really good Cellies that have taught me a lot about. I mean, I I don't think I would have the perspective of I have about prison, except for the Cellies I've had, because they are, I've had ones I don't get along with. I've had ones I don't get that I do get along with. Even the one who I that wanted to fight. The one who wanted to fight, I honestly, my thing was is like he had a serious brain injury. Like he had serious health issues that needed to be addressed and never did. And then his buddies who are in the day room wanted to see him fight me. So they spun him up. And this like and so it's not like it wasn't like I was mad at him. I'm mad that this is the situation that he ended up in, and that's where it goes. So that's why I would love to see something where there are no Cellies, or where you're not doing that, because it's not like it really is not helpful to anyone.
No, it's not.
There was a guy I always talk about when I think about Cellies is there's a guy named Philemon who was at Ramsey unit who the first time I met him he was like, are you an alien? Like he was really had like some serious like mental issues, and he was very like he openly said like, yeah, I have lots of mental issues. And he also knew like one of the big issues was he knew that he would flip on a hat, like he could turn very quickly. He'd go from like shy, like hiding away from everyone, to super angry and aggressive. And but he was afraid of that side because that was the side that got him locked up. And so he had a Cellie, and they didn't the Cellie just came in and just like was like, it's like this, this is my cell, you need to stay off out of stay out of my way, stay out of this, I need these times, and you need to back off. And so like Philemon, being who he was trying to be respectful, but he also he was trying to do some art and then spilled ink all over the other guy's bunk, and then all these other things. And finally the Cellie was like, he's like, you know what? I'm sick of it. He's like, next time you come in the cell, you know what time it is. It's like, that's it. And so Philemon just stands outside the cell door because it was right against the day room. And he's trying to talk to the guy and be like, look, it's, just trying to talk to him, just like talk him out of the fight. And it's not doing any good because the guy's not trying to hear it. Meanwhile, the officer is yelling, trying to count everyone in the day room, and Philemon's not moving. He's just still standing there in the cell trying to talk to him. And so the officer comes up to him and taps him on the shoulder, and the officer's this little old man, and then Philemon just turns and just attacks him, beats up the old man, breaks the clipboard over him, knocks him to the floor, and then the inmates who are over there getting counted try and come over and pull Philemon off the officer because they don't know what he's going to do. And then Philemon immediately jumps off and just takes all of his clothes off and runs to the other side of the room. And then lieutenant comes in and and then this is when I saw, because I could hear all the ruckus going on in the day room, and I looked down and I could see the lieutenant coming in and just jump kicking Philemon across the room.
That sucks. Or have you ever been in a cell and they gas the day room and you get hit with the gas?
I've been hit with the gas, like not in my cell. I've been in like hallways and things like that.
I've been in a cell where they sprayed and threw them out, and then all of a sudden the residuals started floating towards the cells. So everybody that was in their cell got a rude awakening.
That sucks. But for those who are fortunate enough to not be gassed, when you get gassed, as soon as you start coughing, it doesn't stop. You just don't stop coughing until like all of the gas and the stuff is gone in the air, off your clothes, all of it, because you're just gonna keep coughing, and you just can't stop it.
It's horrible too. That stuff burns everything.
Yeah, in prisons they're set up with all sorts of the kitchens, the day rooms, everything. They're set up so that officers can just shoot in gas whenever they want to. They can just fill it up with gas indiscriminately, and they'll say straight up, if something happens and the officers feel like they're threatened or whatever, then they'll just fill it up with gas.
Right. But they feel threatened every time somebody raises their voice at them.
Yeah. Some will sit there and like just kind of poke inmates, keep on poking them, and then all of a sudden when the inmates like you better back off, and then all of a sudden they'll gas. it's like
yeah, they instigate it and then want to punish the person for it.
Right.
Baiting, I guess that's what you'd call that.
Right. And it's and that goes into the like working as an officer. Officers in prison is one of the worst jobs in the world, and so if you sign up for it, generally it's not because of the money or because it's such a great job. It's because you want something else out of it, which is usually to be a bully.
The Shakedown was produced in luxurious Longmont, Colorado. Envato Elements provided our theme song, Shakedown. If you want to support us, you can find Shakedown shirts, hoodies, and more at waywordpress.com. That's WAYWORD press.com. If you have ideas for future episodes or cool stuff you want to see us make, let us know in the comments on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram at Get the Shakedown.